I was going to ask you, since you've studied some of the background of Islamic history and women were involved in military campaigns, how American Muslims feel about women Muslims participating in our military.
Well, I mean, what I would say is right now, there are few Muslim women in the military. There are some in the military.
Gaddafi is surrounded by them, isn't he?
Is it?
He has a female bodyguard.
Who does?
Gaddafi.
Yeah. Well, you know, you have Muslim women in the military. There are Muslim women in the military, and now the U.S. military has recognized Muslim chaplains. So you do have Muslim chaplains who are now certified either by the AMC, American Muslim Council, or Imam Wardin Muhammad. So they go in and they work just like the Christian chaplains or the rabbis. So the way I will respond to the question really is, if you go by Islamic history, I mean, some of the Muslim women who are now in the US military, they would say that, well, this is a job for them, because the army is not a draft army, it's a voluntary army. And many of the African American women see the army as an opportunity for them to have upward mobility and to have a secure job. Because you see, if you cannot get a husband and you go in, or you have one kid, but your kid can stay with your mother, and you go into the military, you can learn skills, and many of them, some of them have done that. After 4, 5 years, 6 years, you come out, maybe you know electronics, and you now begin to have your own shop where you can repair TVs and radios. You make money too. It's better than staying in the inner city and you don't have anything. So the army, in the eyes of many of the African Americans, and this applies to male and female. Now, to an extent, white Muslims or Chicano Muslims or Asian Muslims are in the military, I don't know, because this is one area we are not very well informed. But what we do know is that the military has opened up to some of these Muslims who want to go into the army. And I think this issue will be dealt with by the fuqaha. People like Hamza will be, they have to start investigating the research, and so that people will be asking field questions on these issues.
I think the whole issue of women in armed forces is a tricky one anyway, whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim, because I'm old enough to take the point of view that if a man was fighting in the field next to a woman soldier, I would have thought his natural instincts would be, you know, to be protective towards that soldier. And if you were the general of the army, you might regard that the female soldier as a weak link in your force. I may be totally wrong on that one, but in my generation, certainly, I think there was that feeling that women as armed combatants would be more of a handicap than help. I don't know, personal opinion.
Well, yeah, in the US,
Well, there's already, I mean, there's a, you know, we've just had all these kind of sexual problems, and, you know, there's all this court-martialing going on for men who've been abused their, you know, they've abused their authority over people. I mean, you have those problems, and from a Muslim point of view, again, any situation where a male will be alone with a female is completely prohibited. And the problem is when you enter into the army, you're entering into a situation in which you are subordinating your beliefs to, you know, you don't join the army if you don't believe, for instance, in killing people for maybe a reason that you don't agree with. Whereas in Islamic law, you cannot fight unless you have a valid Sharia reason. You can't, yeah, Muhammad Ali refused to enter into the armed services. He lost his title and was barred from boxing for a few years because he said, I don't have a problem with Viet Cong. He says, I don't have any problem with them, you know. So, and really I think that would be consistent with a Muslim picture. You know, Thoreau said that an educated soldier is usually called a deserter. You know, if you really know what people are fighting about, you'll tend not to, I mean, you know, the idea that the Kuwaiti War was about defending democracy or anything like that, I think came out as absurd to even most Americans, you know. And there was a cartoon somebody did when the Bosnian thing happened, and nobody was helping the Bosnians, and one of the Bosnians in the cartoon said, you know, what we need to do is discover oil. Right? And then you'd have a lot of people coming over there to defend them, right? But the idea of defending the Kuwaitis or something like that, so. I don't know, I think it's a big problem, you know, the military just in general, not just the American military, but military everywhere, you know, because it's part of a state apparatus, and we have to question what is being defended, right? What are we defending here? Are we defending the interests of a people, or are we defending the interest of a global elite? Are we defending the interest to burn cheap oil? I mean, these are issues that, you know, are often not really dealt with at any type of intellectual level, and yet people are being put on the front lines and are expected to die if called to do so. And so, for me personally, I think some real, very serious philosophical things get raised. I mean, I would not feel comfortable being in any of the armies of the world, not any country in the world right now. I really wouldn't, none, whether Muslim or non-Muslim. I would not feel comfortable being in the Egyptian army, right? Because I don't think they're defending anything honorable, you know, and that's my own personal belief. That's not, you know, I'm not speaking for the Muslims. I'm just speaking for myself at that point. I'm very wary of modern military apparatus. You know, I really am, and I'm certainly wary of this country's. You know, because I don't think that they're there defending.
Well, I served recently in very critical humanitarian missions that otherwise couldn't have provided relief. So
like Somalia? Like Somalia?
Well, I think Operation Provide Comfort to the Kurds, I'm thinking more.
Well, I mean, part of the problem is, I mean, for me, Mary Kay, with all respect, part of the problem is, why do we have a Kurdish problem in the first place?
Well,
it's one thing when you go and slash somebody and then you start offering them Band-Aids. Do you know, I mean, the Somalian situation Somalia is a classic example of a Cold War victim, right? Somalians were very important to the Americans, and we kept this petty little dictator in power for several years, right, 30 years, who, in order to maintain his power, took traditional tribes and just played them against one another constantly, divide and conquer. He learned very well from his masters. And then when they're no longer any significance, you know, to the global, what the British used to call the Great Game, right? When they lost their significance in the Great Game of global civilizations, all of that support was pulled up, and the next thing you have is a type of anarchy in the country. And then we go in for the photo opportunity.
Well, I don't mean to get into the individual campaigns. I guess it was a more generic question, because there are Muslims serving in the military all over the world,
right,
in other countries, and I just wondered how Muslims felt about women, since non-Muslim women serve in our military, if there was any.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you'll get a whole range of opinions.
You have.
Maybe I should stop.
No. We can give you. You have two broad positions. She mentioned to you Gaddafi having women bodyguard. So I mean, if you go to Libya, some of the Muslim countries, the women are in the armed forces.
Yes.
There are some of the Muslim countries.
Jordan's daughter is an
Just you know, some of the Muslim countries have military.
I mean, Egypt, yeah,
So you will not find any woman in the Saudi army. You see what I'm saying?
woman driving cars.
So really, it's a matter of national choice. And of course, they will have scholars, religious scholars, to just give them fatwas to rationalize it.
Yeah, against and for.
Yes,
Because it's part of the
just
game.
like in the First World War, Second World War, you have people praying for both armies. You know, in the neighborhood area.
God was on their side.
Yes.
That's nothing new.
So that's the thing. So just see it that way.